If you think Iowa is just cornfields, you are very, very wrong. Well, actually, you're not too far off. But here's the thing, follow me. We do have some really great things in Iowa that are not cornfields. And as a lifelong Iowa resident, well, except for those 3 months that I lived in Illinois, we all make mistakes in life, okay? But here's the thing, we do have some great things, and this video is gonna cover 10 realities of living in Iowa from a local, and it's gonna go into what are the people like, what we like around here, and just general things to expect when living here. So let's get into it. 10 realities of living in Iowa. Very first thing is talking about the people and how they relate to distance. Yes, it's kind of a weird one, but I know a lot of you out there measure distance in miles, and that is absolutely incorrect. It's actually measured in time. Yes, we measure distance in time. You'll hear it all of the time, because if somebody's so far out, they're not going to say I'm 10 miles out. They're going to say I'm 5 minutes away. And it's easy to do that because in Iowa, generally speaking, traffic not too bad. So you kind of have a good expectation of how long something's going to take you, because you can go pretty much as fast as the speed limit says and not have to worry about people getting in your way. I really think that's why we measure distance in time, not in miles, because we are lucky enough to have a predictable traffic flow through the areas that we drive in. So just know that if you're asking Iowan how far, well, they're going to give you a weird look, because they're going to tell you how far in time they are away or how far something is away in time. Just know that it's a nuance. Get used to it if you're making that move here to the state of Iowa. Now, something about Iowans is we love to talk about the weather. I don't know if it's because of our agricultural roots or what it is, but we absolutely love to talk about it, even if we don't want to admit it. We have sayings like in the summertime, it's not the heat, it's the humidity. You'll hear that all the time. And the flip of that in the winter is it wouldn't be so cold if the wind wasn't blowing. It happens all of the time. We love talking about the weather and how much it bothers us or how good it is, or vice versa. The thing is, in Iowa, we have all 4 seasons, so we're never quite settled into whatever weather pattern we're at, and sometimes we like to complain or talk about it in these platitudes that you hear all of the time. So just know, if you're talking to somebody in Iowa, they're gonna talk to you, but it's probably going to be about the weather for the most part. And speaking about the weather, in the wintertime, driving in the ice and the snow is kind of a rite of passage for a lot of us. It's just something that we have to grow up learning how to do. And when we see somebody that has moved in or has never experienced driving on ice, yes, we probably do judge you a little bit, but we also judge other Iowans every time we get a new snowfall or ice, because it seems like we forget when the weather is great how to drive on ice. Of course, not me. I am perfect at driving on ice and snow. Maybe ask my wife about that one. But regardless, it is a rite of passage. It is something that you need to get used to, especially if you've never driven on ice or snow. It is a big difference between that and a dry road and that and even a wet road. I know one time I went to Vegas, I got in the Uber, they had just got snow. I've only been to Vegas a few times, and of course the time I go, they got snow for the first time in like 30 years. So they're not used to it, is my point. And my Uber driver, he was saying how terrible the traffic was because they didn't know how to drive that. And to us, the snow that they got was literally like nothing. But again, we're set up for snow. They're not. We know how to drive in it unless we forget. So if you're coming here, just be prepared that you're going to have to drive in snow and ice, and to learn how to do it properly. The key is really just to go slower than you probably think you need to. That's my tip for today. Here's the thing that you really need to know about moving to Iowa is, yes, you're going to have to learn to drive on the snow and ice, but you're also going to want to know where to live in this state. And I am a licensed realtor. I've lived literally all over the state, so I know all the nooks and crannies. If you're making that move, give me a call, send me a text. I can help you out in deciding what area really fits you and your lifestyle. So my number is popping up down below. I am the one that answers all those phone calls, emails, and text messages. And speaking of real estate type of things, Iowa is kind of known for its low cost of living, and a lot of that has to do with the housing affordability here in the state. Now, nuance. people in the state don't think it's affordable. People from out of the state think it's extremely cheap. So you're going to get some nuance with people that are living here versus people that are coming in. So if you're somebody that's coming in, just know that people that are living here feel that it's very, very expensive, and people that are coming in, generally speaking, depending on where you're coming from, of course, but generally speaking, think that it's very cheap and affordable. So you get that duality, but it is true on a whole. If you're looking at the whole nation, Iowa is definitely seen as a more affordable place where people can still afford to get homes here. Iowans just like to complain. Even if there's not a whole lot to complain about, we're gonna find that little nuance in there. And to be fair, salaries here in Iowa are a little bit lower, generally speaking, than other places. So it kind of balances out when it comes to affordability. But if you look at the national statistics, yes, homes are more affordable here than other locations. So keep that in mind if you're coming in, that you're probably going to be able to afford a much bigger, much more house than you may afford wherever you're at. Again, caveat, depending on where you're at, because we're not the cheapest in the whole nation. Just recently, me and my wife actually went to the Mississippi Valley Fair, and we had a great time. But here's the thing, fairs and me, we don't have a long history. Even though I grew up in Iowa and they're serious business here, people absolutely go crazy for them. It's just never been my scene. But that also being said, we really did enjoy ourselves. We went there. If you're not familiar, the Mississippi Valley Fair is in Davenport, and they have some great shows. This year, I believe they had Kane Brown come, which for a place like Davenport, that's a pretty big name. I know in the past they've had Pitbull, so really a pretty good fair. It just has never been my scene or places I go in. But again, we really enjoyed ourselves. We got to watch this dirt bike show where they did flips and stuff off of the ramps. It was really, really cool. But if you're moving here, just know a lot of Iowans definitely take it super serious, from the county fairs to definitely the state fair. And it goes all the way up and down the age spectrum, because county fairs, especially, they have things like 4-H or FFA where they do projects. And I think that's really, really cool. I just never was involved in that as a kid, but I knew a lot of people that did that. So be ready during the summer. County fairs, state fair, definitely going to be a big deal. People take a lot of time and sometimes spend their vacation time at these county fairs and the state fair. So very big part of Iowa culture here during the summertime. Now, unlike county fairs, farmers market, that's my wife and I's jam. We love farmers market, and it's not just a place to get groceries. It's also a social event. They have things at our farmers market here in Davenport, like bands. They have entertainers all along throughout there, and of course all the amazing vendors there. But also get your fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, and whole gambit of other things, including food trucks and all that. So it's very cool. You go, you hang out with the community, you get your groceries at the same time. Very, very awesome. Now, not every place in Iowa has a big farmers market like Davenport, but you do have the roadside stands. Specifically, you see a lot of roadside stands selling sweet corn, watermelons, cantaloupe, and sometimes, honestly, those are a little bit better than the farmers market. Sometimes the farmers market people bring in stuff from outside of Iowa and then sell it, which I'm fine with. But those roadside stands, those are the actual farmers that are picking it, selling it, and it's really, really cool. Most of the time, the corn is just sitting in the back of a pickup. You come up, grab 12 of them, and then you really enjoy that sweet corn. So just know farmers market are definitely a part of the culture, but you have other options if you aren't close to one here in Iowa, because pretty much every farmer that has sweet corn is selling it. Now, I mentioned at the very beginning of this video that we measure distance in time, and a lot of that has to do with the availability of no traffic. But here's the nuance that you should know about, and the reality is that during harvest season, if you're not familiar, harvest is where we pick all the corn, all the soybeans, and it all happens at once. And if you're out in the rural areas, you're going to see traffic jams, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you think about it, it's really because of the slow moving tractors and combines that are going down the road. They take up a lot of the road, and it's really hard to pass them sometimes. So you will get traffic jams when that happens. But generally speaking, unless you're in one of the bigger cities, you're not going to see a ton of traffic, because there's just not as many people here as a lot of other places. So not saying there's not any, but for the most part, it's pretty easy going. Now in Iowa, we have a lot of community pride, and when we have community pride, it's something happens and we're on the news for our hometown, or if somebody we know from our hometown gets on the news, it's actually a pretty big deal. People talk about it for literally years, but you can also get on the news for quote unquote bad reasons. When I was growing up in my small town, we had what were called the chicken wars. There was a family that had moved in. They were on the board of the community and they were using an area of public land that was in their backyard as their own. The Boy Scouts wanted to do a project back there, and this family didn't want that and never started to use the city government to kind of block that. And somebody got mad at them. They had chickens, which was against the rules of the city. And then they said it was for their autistic child to have the chickens. And long story short, it blew up and it made the news. And it was kind of a thing, and I'm still talking about it to this day. So it does happen. It's a big deal, and not everything is bad like the chicken wars, but when we have somebody that we know that's been around, or the news picks up a story that the parade is happening at our small towns, we absolutely love it. So just know you're going to be famous. The whole town is going to know about it. Now, if you're not familiar with Casey's, you're going to get really familiar with Casey's pretty quickly. What is Casey's? Casey's is a gas station, but they're really not known necessarily for the quality of their gas. I'm not saying it's a bad gas, but they're actually more known for their pizza. Now, this is another one I never really saw why it is this way, but people absolutely go crazy for Casey's pizza, which is a gas station pizza. And I'd say it's good, generally speaking, but I've never understood the craze that people go through when they love the Casey's pizza so much. Now, the nuance to that is my hometown growing up, we didn't have a Casey's, so maybe that was part of it, but it's pretty much everywhere. Every small town that you can possibly think of is most likely going to have a Casey's, and that becomes the center hub for the food in that town. So if you haven't heard about Casey's and you're moving here, you will hear about it very quickly. Trust me. Now, if you know anything about Iowa, you know we absolutely have 0 professional sports teams. Now we have some minor leagues here and there. You have the Iowa Cubs, you have the River Bandits here. Those are some baseball teams. You have the Des Moines Wild, which is a hockey team. So we're not completely devoid, but no professional major league teams. What does that do? Well, that makes people really follow the state college schools, specifically Iowa State in Iowa. Go Cyclones. I'm an alumni, so go Cyclones. Regardless, we do have a huge fan base of Iowa University, the Hawkeyes. For whatever reason, people seem to like them. Comment down below if you are a Hawkeyes fan, but hey, it makes for good competition here in the state. And you will notice that people really back their teams. They go to a lot of the games, they tailgate, they do all the things for those teams. And I think a lot of that is driven because we don't have professional sports teams here. So there's such a fervor behind the college sports here in the state, whether you're Iowa State. We do have some other ones. I don't want to forget UNI, Drake, DMAC, even in Des Moines, which is a community college. But regardless, people really back their college teams, and it's really cool to see. That does create a community spirit, whether you're on one side or the other, and for the most part is very cordial, even if it's the other side. But the thing about moving here, and again, I've talked about this, you really got to figure out where you want to be, from city living to rural life to small town. And I've been all over the state. I've lived in almost every corner of the state. So my number is popping up down below. I am a licensed realtor here, so I can help you figure out which part of the state really makes a lot of sense for you and your family. But if you just want to see what the state is all about, we did this video right here.